that way I will get my way, being kind of like a little mini tyrant in my little world. And it's very painful to see all this in this company because they were sharing with me their feelings of extreme disappointment, because what they were interested in as we watched my life was where I had been kind, loving, compassionate. One of the scenes that...
So you felt their disappointment, not judgment, or were you feeling judgment, or were you judging yourself?
More of me judging myself, because they were sharing with me that I was completely failing what I had been created for and what they had expected of me.
Well, that doesn't sound so good.
Like, for example, my father and I, as I became an adult, our relationship went from bad to worse to the point where we no longer even had a relationship. And I'd always thought all my life that my father had been a big jerk and I'd been the victim of a really lousy father. But what I saw in this whole experience is that I had contributed to the failure in our relationship.
Sure.
I had gone out of my way to antagonize him and to be unsympathetic to him, So I had to take some responsibility for the failure of that relationship.
But see, you're not describing anything so bad at all that almost everybody can't in some way or another identify with what you're saying right now with respect to their life.
Yeah, and I think by the standards of our culture, what we call good isn't good enough. It's not what we were created for and what God expects of us. God expects a whole lot more than what we're giving back to God. And at several points I said, okay, that's enough. I don't want to see any more of this. I get it.
Yeah.
I said, no, you got to watch this. And one of the things that happened that was funny was every time we'd go close to a period of my life where I had won a prize or an honor or a promotion, or some kind of
something
achievement,
good. Yes.
They would skip it. And I'd say, well, hey, wait a minute, you just missed. You just skipped over something. This was really big.
Plus point over there and going right past it.
Yeah, and they'd say, no, that was nothing. Watch this. And they'd show a scene of me blowing off a student who had come to see me, for some sympathetic advice, and I was just I'm thinking in my head while the student's whining on about their, sad little love life. I'm thinking, oh man, they don't pay me enough to listen to this garbage all day long,
Yes, I'm with you.
And what they had hoped I would have done was to have cared about that person, given them a little time and attention. Not
Yes.
that my job wasn't to fix them, but to simply, be there for them, to care about them, be compassionate. So
right.
It was my life review as it progressed was increasingly a disaster, and I'm really embarrassed and ashamed. And the only good part of it is that I knew that the company that I was in, Jesus and the angels, were that they loved me, in spite of the fact that they knew everything about me. They knew all my dirty little secrets and all
right.
of the rotten things I'd done in the world, and they still loved me. Although I can really say that they hated things that I did, they still loved me as a person. Just as I loved my kids, no matter what they do, even if they make me really angry or displeased with them, I still love them.
Right.
And I knew that I was loved, even though...
In that same sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when it was over, I was really relieved. And it was boy, I never want to do that again. Whatever you do, don't show me my life.
I'm not looking forward to it myself.
Yeah.
I mean, there are things that I know that I'm not going to want to review.
Yeah. And they said, "Do you have any questions?" And I went "Questions?" I said, "I got about 1 million questions." And they said, "Go ahead, ask anything you want." So I had the most wonderful experience of asking questions, and they would answer everything I asked, and they were very kind teachers, because the things that I asked, they would try and explain it in a way that I could understand. And of course,
the audience is obviously going to want to know what you did ask and what kind of responses you got. Anything that we should know?
Well, I mean, there's such a range of things. I could just, go on for days about this, but I could give you a sample of some.
Please
things.
do, yes.
In terms of like a personal question, I said, why did God make me a person who was never satisfied with like what I was told? I was always like trying to find out more and more and more.
Good question.
Why did God make me a person who just wondered about everything all the time and was never seemed to be able to just accept things like other people could just accept it? I couldn't accept it.
Right. Really good question.
And they said that was a really special gift from God. The only problem is that I had misused the gift, because the purpose of having that kind of a mind was to be able to discover the truth. And they said whenever I found the truth, I would just like, well, that's not it, and I'd keep going. So instead of seeking the truth and finding the truth, I turned seeking into its own end. I was just always questioning and never receiving the answer, even when it was given to me.
Right.
So it was like nothing ever satisfied me or made me happy. It's like, my wife loves me. Does she really love me? I don't know if she loves me. Why does she love me? Why would she love me? It's like, she doesn't love me. How could she love me? You know what I mean?
Sure.
When the fact was, she did love me, and it stuck by me for 20 years, and is like obvious to everybody in the world except to me. That sort of thing. So I asked them. This was in 1985, and one of the things that I'd grown up with was the very real possibility of a nuclear war that would annihilate the whole planet.
Yes.
And so I said, is there going to be a nuclear war? And they said, absolutely not. And I said, well, why not? And they said, God's not going to allow it. And I said to them, you guys don't get it. There's like 40,000 nuclear weapons.
You really you said that to them?
Yeah. I was really comfortable with it. I mean, these people were good. These are really... And I said, there's 40,000 weapons poised and ready to go. And even if no one actually planned a nuclear war, it's just inevitable that somebody's going to accidentally set something off, and then there's going to be a nuclear exchange, and the whole Earth's going to be annihilated. And I said, it's not going to happen. God's not going to allow it. And I said, so is God going to take God's hand and just, like, stop the missiles when they're launched? And I said, if that's what it's going to take, God will do it. And they said, the planet doesn't belong to people. They said, the planet and all that's in it belongs to God, and God cares about all the creatures in the world, not just people, and God's not going to allow human beings to destroy the earth. And it's like, oh, okay,
Good answer again, if true. Reverend, hold on, we're at the bottom of the hour.